In a world that is just flooded with information, how on earth do you get noticed? It's a huge question. Today, we're going to dig into a really powerful and, yeah, maybe a little dangerous idea from our source material: the absolute, non negotiable necessity of commanding attention. So let's just dive right in. Everything is judged by its appearance. What is unseen counts for nothing. I mean, wow, that's a pretty stark way to put it, isn't it? But this is the core idea we're exploring. The thinking goes like this: if you get lost in the crowd, you might as well be invisible. It's saying that power, success, all of it, it all starts with just one thing: getting people to notice you. If you're unseen, you're irrelevant, period. So, okay, that's the big question, right? In this crazy, crowded world, how you actually command that spotlight? Well, according to the source material, this isn't just luck. It's a skill you have to master. And it basically lays out two very different ways to do it. On one hand, you've got the path of the sensational showman, the person who creates this massive spectacle. And on the other, you've got the seductive enigma, the one who thrives in the shadows. We're going to break down both of them. All right, first up, the showman's playbook. And for this, we have to talk about the absolute master of making noise, P.T. Barnum. I mean, his whole philosophy was so simple but so powerful. All attention, whether it's good or bad, is currency. To him, it was all money in the bank. He truly believed it was far, far better to be slandered in the papers than to just be ignored. So how did he actually pull this off? Well, it all kicked off with, and you can't make this up, a near lynching. So early in his career, his boss, as a prank, starts a rumor that Barnum is actually this notorious murderer. I mean, a mob actually formed. They tore his clothes. They almost lynched the guy. But the result? The entire town was buzzing about it. And guess what? The circus was sold out every single night. That was it. The light bulb went on for Barnum, and the lesson was crystal clear. Notoriety sells tickets. Okay, check out this stunt. It is so simple, it's brilliant. Barnum hires a guy, his job, to just walk around a few city blocks. He lays down a brick, then another, then another. Then, on his way back, he picks up a brick and replaces it with the one in his hand. And the whole time, he's totally silent, super serious. Why? Because people cannot stand an unsolved mystery. They just can't. A crowd starts to follow him. They're all debating, what is he doing? And then the man just calmly walks into Barnum's museum, and the crowd, desperate for an answer, follows him right in, buying tickets just to see what happens next. He literally created a paying audience out of thin air, just pure raw curiosity. And the thing is, he never stopped. This guy was a machine. He hired the worst musicians you could possibly imagine to play free concerts on his balcony, and the music was so awful that people literally paid to go inside the museum just to get away from the noise. He promoted Joyce Heath, supposedly the 161-year-old nurse of George Washington. When people got bored of that, what do? He started a rumor she was actually a robot, just to get the crowds back. He even had the whole country debating his Fiji mermaid, which was basically just a monkey sewn onto a fish. The man was absolutely relentless. Every crowd has a silver lining. I love this quote because it just perfectly sums up how he saw the world. See, for Barnum, a crowd wasn't just a bunch of people standing around. Nope. It was an asset. It was potential. Once you have their eyes on you, you're not just some guy with a museum anymore. You are the event. And at that point, you have their permission to sell them anything: a ticket, an idea, a story, you name it. And this really gets us to the absolute core of the showman's strategy. Listen to this. The quality of the attention doesn't matter at all. Barnum loved bad reviews. He welcomed attacks. He would even write anonymous attacks on his own shows and send them to the newspapers just to make sure his name was being printed. Because for him, the only real true failure, the only thing that terrified him, was being ignored. Okay, so let's completely switch gears now. We're going to look at the second strategy, and it's a total 180 from Barnum. We're moving away from the loud, bright lights of the circus and into the intoxicating shadows of mystery. This isn't about being the loudest person in the room. This is about being the most interesting. It's not about shouting at people. It's about making them lean in closer. And our case study for this is the legendary, the unforgettable Mata Hari. So picture this. She shows up in Paris, just one of thousands of performers trying to make it, and she's got basically nothing to her name. But instead of trying to compete on their terms, to be just another dancer, she did something brilliant. She invented a whole new person, this mysterious, enigmatic woman from the exotic, far-off East. I mean, just look at the difference between the reality and the myth she created. The reality? Her name was Margarita Zell. From a small town in Holland, no formal dance training, just an ambitious performer. But the myth? Oh, the myth was that she was Mata Hari, a descendant of a Javanese princess from the exotic East who had been taught secret Hindu dances. The reality was, well, kind of boring. The myth, it was intoxicating, and Paris absolutely fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Now, here's the really clever part. Her power, her mystique, wasn't built on just one single lie. It was built on a story that was always changing. So, one day she'd tell a journalist she was born in Java, and then the next time she'd say she was raised in some sacred Indian temple. Now, these weren't mistakes or slips of the tongue. They were totally deliberate contradictions. And what that did was make her impossible to define, impossible to pin down. And because of that, she was endlessly fascinating. The public was completely captivated because they could never, ever figure her out. And this really gets at the core principle behind her power. What cannot be seized and consumed creates power. Think about it. We are obsessed with an enigma, with a puzzle we can't solve. By never showing all your cards, by never letting people fully understand you, you become this sort of blank screen, and people project all of their own fantasies and desires onto you. They're not just watching you anymore, they're watching the version of you that they've built up in their own minds. And that right there gives you an incredible amount of power. But, and this is a huge but, playing the attention game is incredibly dangerous. It really is a double-edged sword. Because if you mess up, if you miscalculate, if you get just a little too greedy for that spotlight, the very same attention that built you up can be the thing that absolutely destroys you. So, for our final story, our cautionary tale, let me paint you a picture. The year is 1850. The setting, a packed theater in London. This isn't just any show. It's a huge social event. And the guest of honor is, well, pretty much the most powerful person on the planet at the time, Queen Victoria herself. The stakes really could not be any higher. So the clock hits 8. As protocol dictates, everyone is already in their seats. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert arrive. The entire audience rises to its feet. There's a huge round of applause. It's a moment of total deference and respect. And then, 5 minutes later, Lola Montez, who was this famous and pretty scandalous courtesan, makes her own grand entrance, deliberately late, right into the box opposite the Queen's. She was trying to steal the spotlight from the Queen of England. The result? It was immediate, and it was catastrophic. Just a crushing, deafening silence. The Queen and Prince Albert just pointedly ignored her box. And instantly, like a wave, the entire audience followed their lead. For the rest of the night, it was as if Lola Montez didn't even exist. That one single arrogant act of overreach completely finished her career in England, just like that. And this is what we call the reversal. It's the key lesson from Lola's downfall. You have to understand that there's an art to this, knowing when to grab the spotlight, but also knowing when to step back into the shadows. Trying to outshine the master, in this case the Queen, doesn't make you look powerful or bold. It just makes you look desperate. It screams insecurity. And that one fatal miscalculation can wipe out everything you've worked for. And that brings us all the way back to today, doesn't it? We've seen the raw power of spectacle with Barnum, and the seductive allure of mystery with Mata Hari, but we've also seen how dangerous this game can be. So in our world, with this constant, endless fight for clicks, for likes, for views, what does all this mean for us? Was Barnum right? At the end of the day, is being ignored truly the ultimate failure? Something to think about? I'll leave you with that.